What are the 5 stages of grief? Grief is a natural response to loss, particularly the loss of a loved one. To help us navigate this complex and often overwhelming experience, the concept of the 5 stages of grief was introduced. These stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Let's explore each stage in depth, understanding how they help us cope and eventually heal. Stage number 1. Denial. Denial is the first stage of grief, and it acts as a buffer against the initial shock of loss. When we lose someone important to us, the reality of that loss can be too much to bear all at once. Imagine receiving news that a close friend or family member has passed away. You might find it hard to believe, especially if you just spoke to them recently. Your mind might reject the reality of the situation, creating a temporary state of disbelief. Denial serves a protective function. It allows us to process the loss in smaller, more manageable pieces. During this stage, we might find ourselves thinking, "This can't be happening," or "There must be some mistake." This is a normal reaction. It's our mind's way of cushioning the blow, giving us time to slowly absorb the reality of what has happened. In this stage, our reality shifts dramatically. Everything we knew feels uncertain and altered. We might reflect on memories with the person we've lost, struggling to imagine life without them. Denial helps us navigate this new, painful reality step by step, preventing us from being overwhelmed by the full weight of our emotions all at once. Stage number 2. Anger. As we begin to confront the reality of our loss, we often move into the second stage, anger. This stage can be one of the most intense and challenging phases of grief. Anger stems from the deep emotional pain we are experiencing and often serves as an emotional outlet. It's easier to express anger than to confront the deeper, more vulnerable feelings of fear and sadness. Anger can be directed at various targets. We might feel angry at ourselves, others, or even the person we lost. We might blame ourselves for not doing enough or feel resentment towards others who we perceive as not understanding our pain. Anger can also be directed at a higher power, with thoughts like, "Why did this happen?" or "It's not fair." While anger can be isolating, it's a crucial part of the healing process. It allows us to start releasing some of the pent-up emotions that accompany loss. However, it's important to recognize that anger is a natural response to grief. It's a way to begin processing the intense feelings we have and a step towards moving forward. Stage number 3. Bargaining. The third stage of grief is bargaining. During this stage, we may find ourselves making deals or promises in an attempt to change the reality of our situation. Bargaining often involves a lot of "what if" and "if only" statements. For example, "If only I had taken them to the doctor sooner," or "What if I had spent more time with them?" Bargaining is a way to regain some sense of control when everything feels out of control. We might direct our pleas to a higher power, hoping that by promising to change our behavior or make sacrifices, we can alter the outcome. Statements like, "God, if you let them live, I'll be a better person," or "I'll never get angry again if you bring them back," are common in this stage. This stage reflects our desire to go back in time and change things to avoid the pain we are feeling now. It's driven by guilt and regret as we scrutinize our actions and wish we could do things differently. Bargaining can be exhausting as it involves a constant mental battle with scenarios that are ultimately beyond our control. But it's a natural response to feeling helpless and is a way to cope with the intense emotions of loss. Stage number 4. Depression. Depression is the fourth stage of grief and often the most difficult. This stage sets in when we start to truly realize the magnitude of our loss. The initial shock has worn off, bargaining no longer seems viable, and we are faced with the harsh reality that our loved one is gone. During this stage, the sadness can feel overwhelming. We might withdraw from social activities, feel a lack of energy, and struggle to find joy in things we once enjoyed. It's not uncommon to feel a sense of hopelessness or despair. This stage is characterized by a profound sense of emptiness and longing for the person we have lost. Depression and grief is different from clinical depression, but it can still be incredibly challenging. It's a natural part of the grieving process, but it can feel isolating. We might find it difficult to reach out for support, fearing that others won't understand our pain or that we'll burden them with our sorrow. During this stage, it's important to be gentle with ourselves. Allowing ourselves to feel the sadness and acknowledging our emotions is crucial for healing. This stage helps us come to terms with our loss, even though it can be the most painful part of the journey. Stage number 5, acceptance. The final stage of grief is acceptance. Reaching acceptance doesn't mean we are no longer sad or that we've forgotten our loved one. Instead, it means we have come to terms with the reality of our loss. We stop resisting what has happened and start finding ways to live with it. In the acceptance stage, we begin to adjust to life without our loved one. We start to find a new normal and develop routines that don't include them. This doesn't mean we don't still miss them or feel sad. It just means that the intense emotions of the earlier stages have begun to subside and we are starting to heal. Acceptance is about finding a way to move forward while still honoring the memory of the person we've lost. It's about learning to live with the reality of our loss and finding a way to carry on. This stage allows us to integrate our grief into our lives in a way that enables us to continue living fully. So, in conclusion, the 5 stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance provide a framework for understanding the complex emotions we experience after a loss. Each stage plays a crucial role in helping us process our grief and eventually heal. It's important to remember that everyone's grief journey is unique. We might not go through these stages in a linear fashion, and some stages might last longer than others. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Watch more videos by clicking on this video right over here.